Hey guys, yesterday I wanted to make a sound and music come out of my sound generator on Survivalcraft, but I did not know how to do this. And I've seen builds where people used memory banks and other things, and I just couldn't figure out how to do it. And I looked online and there wasn't a lot of help. So I figured it out on my own, and I figured I'd post a short video because I never found very many complete videos online. Anyway, so I'll just get started. So over here, I've just built a wall that's like 11 blocks wide and pretty tall. And this is all the space we'll need to build the circuit to make our own circuit that will play an entire song. And due to the fact that we need to do an easy song just so people can follow along, we'll do a stupid song like Mary Had a Little Lamb, because pretty much everyone knows that. So I guess we'll get started here. So the first thing you need is we will need to create the equivalent of a real-time clock. Now I know some people use real-time clock for this, but this is fairly easy to make right here. And you can adjust your timing here pretty easily, so you can get your song to speed up and slow down, especially with the use of the adjustable delay that you see. So for this video, I think we'll just keep it pretty slow here. And oops, yes, it always happens when you're trying to make a video or something. So what this does is, this is a Survivalcraft application of creating an infinite loop of a pulse. So what happens here is the pulse travels through, goes this way, can't go that way because the delay gate only goes one way. So the other way it goes is this way, waits for half a second, and then the pulse goes around here and waits another half second and comes back. So this creates an infinite loop of pulses, and that will be used for our clock for this video. So continuing on, this will be, oops, I'm just going to tab this here. This is a 4-bit counter. Now, before you get all intimidated by saying 4-bit or anything, what 4-bit means is that the number of outputs of this gate is 16. So that means that 4-bit is represented by the number 2 to the 4. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, that is 16. That's the number of answers that can possibly come out of this gate. Now, the only use this will have right here is controlling the memory banks and acting as the clock for our memory bank. So what happens is we're going to need two of these because there's only 16 outputs, and so if we use 2 of them, 16 times 16 is 256, and our memory bank over here has 256 characters. So with these two 4-bit counters, we can access every single piece of information on this one memory bank. But we're going to have more than one memory bank, as you'll see throughout the circuit. And it's actually very easy, don't worry about it. The hardest part is programming it. But I'll try to cover that as well as I can in this video. So, let's hook this up, and oops, I forgot this one too. Okay, so far I'll hook the rest of this up and let you kind of look and figure this out on your own while I explain it after it's built. So I'll just build this quickly and you can try to see what's going on here. Okay, those are all the memory banks we'll need to use. There's 4 of them. So I don't know if I'll assume you haven't had any experience with the sound generator, I guess. But, so in the sound generator, I'll explain how that works. Actually, I'll place it down and show you right now. So, this, oops, I'll put this here. Hook a wire. I need to know where to put it first before I can place it, I guess. Okay, here's the sound generator. So the way this generator works is the bottom input is the tone of the sound output. So with your tone, you're able to control what type of sound it is. For this one, we'll be using piano because, well, everyone loves piano. And so piano is represented, there's two, well, piano has many different tones you can play, but this will represent a sustained note or non-sustained note. And a non-sustained note would be represented by a 7 in the memory bank, whereas a sustained one would be represented by an 8. So those are the two we would be using for this. And that is our tone hooked up through this memory bank, but it's not programmed yet. And this one, I'll just make all these quickly, I guess. Oops. I cannot place blocks today. Okay. So next on the list, so the second one, what this one is going to do is this one runs to the pitch side of the sound generator. So what the pitch does is this is where the hard part of programming comes from. So this is the frequency of the sound that will be played. So a higher pitch, lower pitch, so like a 0 would be a lower pitch in programming, and then it would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, and then so it goes from, I think, C to all the way to an octave above, and then D, and that'll be represented by this memory bank. So we'll just hook this one up here. So now we have our pitch hooked up to our sound generator. So right now, this might look a little scary if you're a beginner to electronic circuits and Survivalcraft. And don't really worry too much, because this, if you just want to create one song in the game, just copy this circuit that I'm making right here, and then you can program different songs into it later. The only problem with this design is that you can only play songs 51.2 seconds long, I think, if you're using a 0.2 second delay. It all depends how fast you run your clock, but the maximum amount of numbers you can contain is like 512 or whatever. So you're limited by that, the size of the memory bank. But maybe if I figure out how to do more memory banks in series or something, I will create another one to play longer songs, but I'll leave that for later. Okay, so next is our volume. Volume is very easy. I'm just going to hook this up right now like that. So volume is going to be held coming out of this memory bank, third one. And volume is pretty easy. It's just the higher the number, the louder it's going to come out of the sound generator. And this one up here is put it over here so you can see it for the most part. There we go. That's our octave. So what happens is there you can play like 4 octaves or something in this game, I don't know. So I think it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 or something is which octave is selected. And for this one, it's very easy. We'll just keep it in octave 2. It can be played in octave 0, octave 1, doesn't really matter. That's all up to you and what song you're playing. And it's pretty easy. If you need to make any specific note an octave higher or lower, you'd make the corresponding, I'll explain how to do this later, the corresponding bit in the memory bank, higher or lower. And once you've done this once even, it's very, very easy to do. It's just the first time it's quite hard because you just don't know what you're doing. So, hence the purpose of this video. So, our circuit is almost complete. We are missing one thing right here. And I see I accidentally shifted this over once. I even have a template how to make this, and I still cannot make it right. Okay, so what this does is this memory counter has inputs on the sides here. So, I forgot this. This will really help you guys, hopefully. Let's pick a cool color, yellow. Yellow's easy to see. So, with this, these 4-bit counters over here. There. So with this, you should be able to see the output of each memory bank and each counter. So before we program anything in the counter, into the memory banks, I'm going to show you how our loop plays here. So our time is, we're used to everyday life being base 10, but if we did that, we wouldn't exactly be able to, we wouldn't have the availability to access all the code in our memory bank. So we have to use base 16. So here's our first number. So this would be like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. And this is the second number. So this would be like 1, 0 over there. So as you play it, this one goes up, and once it hits F, that means 16 have been played. It will counter the left side, and it'll restart the right side. And oh look, it's not working because rookie mistake. Look at this. I'll have to reset this. And I don't even have the reset hooked up. Isn't that nice? Here is this. Da, 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 da. Put it up here so you can see. Okay, that's our reset button. It'll reset these counters. I forgot to do this. That's all that was wrong. Just a reminder, if you have even a complicated circuit and it's like got 100 times this stuff, it's really, really annoying to build stuff. So, reset. Hey look, it all went to zeros. So anyway, now we're going to try this again. And there we go. So once that hits F, it'll trigger the left side, and it actually will this time. And we'll end up with a counter, a 16-bit counter for our memory banks. So that's how that works. And just a notice for these delay gates. the lowest I've seemed to be able to get them to work is 0.11 seconds. Anything faster, and they don't appear to work for me. For things like 4-bit counters, memory banks, and such. For things like just displaying a delayed light or something like that on a wall, it appears to be working, so I don't know if that's a glitch or just how the game can be run only. But anyway, this is as fast as you can play. Right there. So, I'll just put this back to 0.5. Reset it, and so this is our completed circuit. That took long enough, right? But once you know how to build this, it won't take very long at all. So next comes the programming step of this circuit. So the first thing we're going to get into, because it's what you'd think of first, is the pitch of the sound of the song. So like I said, let's do Mary Had a Little Lamb. So this is the hard part. I'm a musician, I've been playing music all my life, so I can think of, and I'm also an electrical engineering student, so between that I can think of songs in my head and convert it into this, so it might not be easier for some of you guys. So first I'll show you this memory bank, and it's made up of a matrix of 16 by 16 characters. So that's where the 256 4-bit words comes from. And so what we're going to do for making music is, this looks very daunting, this matrix, right? But we're going to switch it to linear. Now, what this does is now we just have a line of 256 characters. So a brief explanation on how this works is, this is an analog signal that it'll be sending out to the sound generator. And so what this memory bank will do is send out a electrical signal, and the sound generator will read the rising edge of the signal. So what happens is we'll start with a 0, and if we want to read a note, we'll put in a non-zero number. So that would correspond to 4. We're going to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. And so I'll just write out the rest of this. So if you're a musician, so this is, we'll just do quarter notes as our base, like our fastest play rate here. So if you wanted to, okay, so the first 3 notes of Mary Had a Little Lamb are, let's say, F sharp and E and D. So well, that'd be 4, 2, and 0. And oh, so 0, as I'll explain later, is also in pitch. It doesn't mean it's not going to be played as long as some of the other programming that has a non-zero in there. I'll show you which ones to use. And 0 will just correspond to our D note here. So this would be, so I can't remember, this would be every 0.5 or 1 seconds this note would be played. I think it's 0.5. But if you wanted to stretch it out so that you could play 8th notes in between, you'd have to add some zeros in between. And if you wanted to play an 8th note in between, you could just get rid of one of these in between, and then you could play another 8th note in between. But we'll just do quarter notes because this is Mary Had a Little Lamb. So I will just program this quickly, and hopefully you can follow along. So this might take a little getting used to and just experimentation, but once you figure out that you can write a chart if you want of which letter or number 4-bit character corresponds to which tone or pitch here. And so, like in this case, this is, well, I think 0 corresponds to C, so essentially I just transposed it. But this, if that's the case, then this would be C, this would be C sharp, this would be D, this would be D sharp, this would be E, this would be F, this would be F sharp, etc., etc. So that's how that works. Anyway, so I'll program this quickly so you can see how to do the rest of the stuff. Okay, I think that's right. And here's an awesome part, is now that we've entered our linear numbers for the entire song, go to grid, and essentially, so if you look at the horizontal lines here, so essentially every quarter note will be played on 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then so every 2 spaces is a quarter note, every 4 spaces is a half note. So then we can look and make sure everything lines up like this. If anything's out of line, that means we made a mistake and we need to fix it. So if I see a 2 here instead of right here, that means I screwed up and I need to click here and delete the 2 that would be right here and put a 0 and put the 2 right there. So the grid's nice to look at and make sure everything's right, but it looks like everything is all nice and lined up. So that is our pitch. And so we'll start over here, down at our tone. And so Mary Had a Little Lamb, we'll just make non-sustained notes and then a few sustained notes. So pretty much over here, whenever you have we'll do 7 is the non-sustained piano note. So this would be there we go. So that would be non-sustained, 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 sustained. Red. And since this is a sustained note, this is a half note in the song right here. That means the next note that we played, because it thinks it's playing quarter notes every time, will have to not be played. So we place a 0 there, so it doesn't play anything. And then we just continue. And we have a non-sustained, a non-sustained, and a sustained again. And do the rest of the song. There we go. That's all there is to this. And I don't know, I'll just leave this up here in case anyone wants to look at it quickly. A lot of 0s and 7s, it's hard to look at. That's one way to think of it, that's for sure. But look at this grid, everything looks like it lines up good. Perfect. There's like a 20% chance this stupid thing is going to work when I go and play it, because I'm sure I'll screw up something. So next thing we'll do is our volume. So volume, we'll just put it a midway point. The higher the number, the louder it will be, the lower the number, the quieter it'll be. So if you put F, it's going to be very loud. If you put 1, it's going to be very quiet. So we're just going to leave it at 7. So wherever we want to play a note, I'll just put 7. And we'll call that good enough for this video. So I'll put that down. So essentially you're just putting a 7 wherever you put... Oh, I hate when that happens. So essentially you just put a 7 wherever you put any sort of number in this memory bank for your tone. And, well, I mean, you can make it louder or quieter for any individual note if you want, and just to make the song sound better, but I'll just leave it at 7 so we can get through this pretty quickly. So, volume would be okay. And that should be it. Everything lines up. And that represents the loudness of each corner note, half note right here. You can visually see all this on the matrix right here. So this leaves our last memory bank. This is our octaves. So this determines which octave each note is played in. So with this, I'm just going to leave everything in octave 2. So this is going to be exactly the same as our volume, but with just a different 4-bit number here, 4-bit digit. So I'll just put this in quickly. And hopefully that works. And lines up. Good. So you can see this song has 4 rows, not quite 4 rows of information, and you can put 16. So you can make songs about 4 times louder than 4 times longer than this is the maximum. So this is completely programmed now to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. That's what you need to do right there. And it's probably not going to play because I'm sure I screwed up somewhere, but we're going to try it anyway. So all we have to do is send our pulse out through here, and it'll run our clock, which will output all the memory banks in parallel here. So you can see each memory bank is in parallel here. They'll all read out the number at the same time. So the sound card right here will get each of these 4 signals at the same time. That's the purpose of having this one clock with these 2 4-bit counters running all 4 of these at once. Just makes things easier and condensed. So let's see how it works. And that's all there is. And now, hopefully you know at least how to copy how to make a song. And hopefully on your own, you'll be able to make your own song. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this helps you build your own music on Survivalcraft.